everybody, I'm back. So you've got me again now, and then you've got me again, in about another hour. But that's a good thing or a bad thing. So our next guest is the lovely Kate Cherrell from Burials and Beyond. So I will bring her on, and I've got lots of questions. If you've got any questions, please do. I will ask your questions. I try not to get led astray and waffle on. I will try not to, but I will bring on Kate, and you can find out all about her. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Oh, yeah, of course it's afternoon now. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
It's all right. It's Sunday, and we're both doing great.
Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah. At least one of us knows what day of the week it is and what time of day it is. It's a bonus. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mentioned obviously Burials and Beyond. Those people are not aware of Burials and Beyond. What is it, and what is it that you do?
Well, Burials and Beyond is my website. It's a really fun and kind of light-hearted look at what I always say, the dead, the nearly dead, and the never was. So it's life, death, and the fun bits in between. So I cover everything from, supposed ghosts in, 17th century, right through to yesterday's article was about the great Poundland Ouija board debacle of 2020. And I do lots of spiritualism, morning things, a bit of everything. But outside of the website, I'm just finishing my PhD at the minute. I'm in the last few dregs of it. And I'm looking at spiritualism in Gothic in the 19th century. And aside from that, I lecture when situations allow.
Yeah.
Victorian mourning jewellery, and 19th century spiritualism. And I do a lot with cemeteries, and I'm just a massive cliche and very productive alongside it.
I love the way you always put that about being a cliche. And you're also in the last issue of Haunted Mag too.
I am. Yeah, I'm spreading my spooky tendrils out and about. Yeah, I'm in the upcoming one as well, keeping all of my dignity intact in a wonderful article, if I do say myself, about one of the...
You're allowed to tell us.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into trouble with Paul and Andy.
I was just going to say grubbier sides of the things I look into.
Okay. All right. Just checking, because I don't want to get any messages and get told off for anything.
No.
We had it in the middle of the night. We had it in the middle of the night last night. I was doing an interview and somebody put a comment on, so I read it out. I won't say which interview it was. I won't say who it was. And they asked a question, so I read it out. And the people I was interviewing said, we can't talk about that. Because I think it's something that's in the works, has not actually been announced. So I was like, yeah. So moving on very quickly. So I'm very aware today that the magazine comes out tomorrow, and anyone I'm talking to that's in the magazine, I don't want to get into trouble. So I'm just mentioning they've been in, or they're going to be in it again, and that's it.
Yeah, all I can say is it's very good, and I'm in it.
Very good. And in fact, you were in it last month, and last issue, and you're in it again this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can't get rid of me now.
That's not a bad thing. And you also write a blog, don't you?
Yeah, that's just what I like to keep updated with different articles, and I do a lot of collection features as well, because I collect a lot of 19th century oddities, mourning things. I'm big into mourning jewellery and memorial cards. So I try and keep memorial cards like
I knew you were going to have one. The one I prepared this morning.
My blue people moment. Yeah. My little hobby at the minute is, because none of us are really going out that much, is going through my collection of memorial cards like this one. This one's very nice because it's got picture of the lady.
Oh, wow.
And so I trace them, find out their stories, how they lived, how they died, and write it up on my blog and try and add a bit more, or try and humanize a lot of pieces in my collection, and hopefully people find it interesting, and it shows that the strange little oddities that you might have in your inherited family bits and bobs might be worth taking out of the box every now and again.
Yeah, it might be in a box somewhere, and you think, oh wow, it's just that's from so long ago. I won't bother looking at it or whatever, and it gets just left, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you, like you said, you collect jewelry as well.
Yes, I'm a real magpie when it comes to that. Anything to do with mourning jewelry, I'm really interested.
Oh, she's frozen. Bear with us a moment. Hopefully she'll come back.
Oh,
hello. You froze. You're back.
Oh, no, we've just got new internet as well, so I'll be sending.
You literally said hopefully, and then you froze.
Oh well, I collect hair jewelry as well.
You posted a new piece the other day, didn't you? Was it this? I saw you posted a new piece of hair jewelry that you recently got. You posted on Facebook.
Always, it's terrible. I have no stop button. If I see it somewhere, it's like it must be mine.
I must have been having a magpie moment because it's just something I remembered looking at earlier this week, actually.
Well, it tends to elicit one of two responses. It's either a, oh my God, that's disgusting, or, ooh, tell me more. So it's kind of the repulsion and the strange little intrigue. But hair jewelry is a really beautiful thing. It's been popular for centuries, kind of died out in the 20s. But through the 19th century, it was this enormous, beautiful industry where people would make, guess who's got props? Where people would make little displays and wreaths like this. Which, I mean, I think, even if you're not a fan of...
Well, no, that's a beautiful piece to have in a collection.
Yeah, there's some artistry to it.
Yeah.
But pieces like this that are often, it's quite a simple one.
I think I posted about that one, I think. I saw like some kind of stalker that I literally just go through all your posts or something.
It's nice to see that someone's looking at them and things like this. So I'm very interested in preserving hair work. I'm not very good at making it myself, but I have friends that are phenomenal hair workers. And I just like posting about these sort of things, showing how things really aren't disgusting or frightening or morbid. I think morbid's a term that we throw around too much when it comes to Victorian jewelry and ephemera and things like that. And actually all of this, it's born from art, it's born from love, and grief itself can produce beautiful things.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I like to emphasize, not only in my work online, but in my day-to-day life. I surround myself with death-related things because I find them really beautiful. And hair work and mourning jewelry is just an extension of that. It's appreciating the artistry in a field that has kind of been in shadow for quite a few decades now, but it's coming out a lot more now.
So what got you into all this in the first place? Was it something you saw? What spiked your interest?
Well, I suppose if we take it right back, interest in sort of death and even paranormal things, ghost things, all traces back to my childhood, as it does with so many of us. I used to go around cemeteries twice weekly with my granddad. And then because I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, my frame of reference became really skewed growing up. So I was brought up around what they grew up with.
Right, okay.
And my great-grandparents' things that remained. So that interest was always there. And then when I developed a love for, the Gothic and Gothic literature and Victorian literature, and you start learning about the different mourning practices that come into books, and it just snowballs. So when I started seeing really beautiful jet mourning jewelry, I immediately just fell in love. And when I realized what you could do with hair and, the stories behind headstones, it just grows and grows and grows. So it's been a very natural thing. But I think a lot of it has been born from being wheeled around places of death as a toddler,
And, bear with me, I'm just going to put this up. There we go. So people can find you. I have a sitter. Well, we all work together, so you've always got someone behind the scenes that's putting something on somewhere. So I'll say we'll put a link on for that, and the link will be there already. Fantastic. Bearing in mind we've had we've had any sleep, but so we're doing well, I think. So you're also known as a cemetery historian.
Mm-hmm.
So what, obviously, apart from the obvious, what does that actually entail? What is it you actually do?
Well, a lot of the things, I visit a lot of cemeteries. I'm really passionate about, at the minute, especially finding hidden cemeteries in towns and cities. So places that we'd walk past and not even realise that they were a burial space. I mean, there's a lot of programmes on telly at the minute, like The Big Dig and things like that, that are talking about hidden places of burial within cities, but in towns as well. A lot of us have inadvertently become very disconnected from our environment. So where I am at the minute, in Lincolnshire, there's a hidden cemetery just off a main road. And if you talk to so many locals, no one has any idea it's there. So I like the idea of going in, finding not just about the people in the cemetery and if there's anyone interesting, or anyone with a particular achievement or story in there, but also the history of the ground, like who founded it, why is it into this state that it is now, and things like that. So if I find a picture of a grave as well, that'll often take me on a journey as well, take me to a different cemetery, and I'll find out about why it's no longer used or why the grave was the way it was, different memorials.
They've changed a lot, haven't they, over the years? When you say about memorials and things, I can't remember where it was now. Brain's gone blank. I can't even remember. It was we went to a graveyard near Drakelow.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? For the life of me, I cannot remember what that place is called. But there, you had all the new, obviously, but the further back you walked, the obviously the older the gravestones were, the older the graves were, and it's such a difference, isn't it, compared to all those centuries ago, compared to now, how they used to honour people after passing, to what we do now. We just have a simple headstone, but you've got like huge, like statues, monuments, all sorts of things.
Yeah, I think a lot can be said for changing tastes and the way that we interact with death and resting spaces. But when it comes to changing in monuments, it's really quite dull when it comes to cemeteries. Nowadays, we don't have a lot of big obelisks and big crosses and things like that. It's not necessarily because people don't want them, but because of health and safety, which is quite a dull answer, really. But I think the regulation height now, it varies from council to council. I think it's about 3 feet max, because you've got the threat of toppling. So it in a lot of council-owned cemeteries, they're very homogenised. But still, in grander cemeteries like in Highgate, because that's a big 19th century garden cemetery, they do still allow huge, elaborate memorials, but the plot itself is unimaginably expensive in somewhere like that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The memorial in keeping, and you can still have enormous vaults and tombs, reaching to the sky, but you're talking millions.
Serious money, really, now, aren't you, for that type of thing?
So the modern equivalents really do separate it shows the disparity between the man on the street and the person that can still afford to, and find a way to have this enormous monument. We've
got a question from Jenny Hammond. She says, what's your favourite graveyard? Have you got one? I know it's probably strange. People out there probably think, what a strange question to have.
No.
But if this is something you're passionate about, then no, it's not. Then it's completely not a strange question to ask. Because if it's something, you're interested in.
I mean, I could give you a top 5. I won't, don't worry. Well, I always say that my favourite cemetery is Arnos Vale Cemetery in Bristol. I've done work there. It's a really beautiful place. You know, it's a fantastic like island of calm in the middle of a city. It's a big Victorian cemetery. It's part, you know, part modern and then part beautiful, overgrown wilderness. There's something for everyone there. So I
Yeah.
usually do that, but also there's a place called Rock Cemetery in Nottingham. And if anyone from Nottingham is in, it's just by the park and ride on the forest. And it was attached to, I'm not sure if it was originally attached to a church, but it's regarded as just a cemetery now. And it has the most amazing, sad history. You know, it used to be a sand pit where it was used in the glass making industry, because
Yeah.
had an awful lot of pubs, so they needed an awful lot of glasses. So it's quite interesting that this cemetery was built into this former site for the booze industry. And
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it has the most amazing landscape. It's got these huge drop off into like catacomb type things. The landscape is just phenomenal. I've seen very few like it outside of London and Scotland, really. There are a few around the UK with big catacombs, but that is just stunning. And that again shows the disparity between the haves and the have-nots, because it's this beautiful corridor of angels, and these angels are 10, 12 foot high, and they're packed.
Wow.
It's phenomenal. But if you look into the pit beneath, that is still beautiful. There are huge ledger slabs with 40, 50 names on them for paupers.
Yeah, I've seen those. Actually, Gary's made a comment, and you're saying that. I'm skipping a couple of comments, but guys, I will come back to them. But Gary's just said St James's Cemetery, Liverpool, 1600s in Greyfriars in Edinburgh. But the St James's Cemetery, he took us there to have a look, and so many of those. But the paupers that the amount, like you said, the amount of names that's on one slab is crazy. It was mad. And as we walk down, you've got the gravestones all the way down both sides against the wall as you go into it. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And like I said, they're literally all along the walls. And then the amount of names, like you said, that are on just one.
Yeah.
It's frightening, really, to think that many people.
Yeah, the humanizing spaces.
Yeah.
And Greyfriars, like you mentioned, I was hoping to go back there this year, but that's really not going to happen.
Yeah.
But Greyfriars, if anyone's in Edinburgh, is a fantastic Scottish, and it's kirkyard, isn't it? It's just beautiful. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, lots of the names were taken from that churchyard. So knock yourself out if you find yourself being a tourist.
But like, I'm not. That sound. Well, it actually doesn't sound like a bad thing to say. Not when I'm talking to you, but I do like a nice graveyard.
Oh yeah.
I think it's beautiful to think the grandeur of some of them, the way they were done. It's just mind blowing. And like when we went to St James's, wow, that was. I never expected it to be as big as what it was, and I never expected it to be anything like it was, because like you said, you just come in off the street and you don't expect it to be there.
Yeah, they're like hidden art galleries.
It was crazy, but it was absolutely. This one place you haven't been, you need to go. It's absolutely, well, it's massive. We did, unfortunately, when we left there, actually, we won't go into detail, but Gary's cousin that we took with us, our friend Linda, she actually left there with an attachment from St James's. Yeah, I can laugh about it now. It wasn't funny at the time.
Yeah.
Well, it was for us. It wasn't for her.
Yeah. Well, it's a spectral souvenir.
Yeah.
A bit that way.
It let's put it this way. It took a lot of work to get rid. Someone took a liking to her and didn't want to leave her. They wanted to come with us, and they did. Philip says, "Hi Kate, I have an interesting church ruin and a very interesting graveyard near me. We'll try to grab some footage for you when the weather's better."
Oh, please do. Yeah.
And where is that, Philip? Can you tell us where it is, just out of interest? Christopher Evans says, Arnesville. Yeah. Do you know that one?
Yeah, that's the one in Bristol.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it has events and it has an amazing cafe. So you literally can spend all day in a cemetery and feel yeah.
Okay. Everyone's on the graveyards now. Rowley Church has all the old graves, loads of monuments. Some of my family are buried there. Mm. It's surprising what people tell you. There's different subjects you talk about.
Yeah, see, everyone deep down does have a fondness for a certain cemetery.
Yeah. See, Highgate, London. Somebody else that's mentioned it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Gary loves so many places in London.
So many.
I know. Okay, I know you're not a fan of modern spiritualism, for want of a better word, but have you ever had a creepy encounter in a graveyard? Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So I'm not against modern spiritualism at all. I
like the way she put "you're not a fan."
Yeah, no, I'm. That sounds like I'm fire and brimstone going. It's because my interest is in 19th century spiritualism.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm being very impolite and I'm delving into things that really don't concern me when I'm looking into people's contemporary spiritual experiences. But as for creepy experiences in a graveyard, I mean, I did work briefly in a cemetery in Bristol, and was there late at night doing events, walking people round all hours of the day and night. And theoretically, if I was going to have an experience, a paranormal experience, I should have done, because I gave it a good go being in cemeteries. The strangest experiences I've had have been with the living in cemeteries.
I'm not surprised, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, so I think if there ever was going to be anything spectral or unnerving, I would have been completely distracted by someone else, nearly, going over a wall somewhere, or or getting lost from the tour. That would have distracted me.
Yeah.
From any undead chimney sweep in a corner.
And we will come back to spiritual, because that's a subject I want to talk to you about. But following on about the cemeteries, because another comment's just come in about that. Everyone's on it now.
Yeah.
It says, have you ever had an attachment follow you home or around the cemetery? So have you picked up on it, or anything being at a cemetery, or you bringing home anything from one?
If I brought anything home, touch wood, nothing's happened. No, I think I've been very fortunate, because I do spend so much time in cemeteries usually. I'm always going to one or another. But thus far, I've never had a negative experience. I mean, I've been in cemeteries that have felt a bit different to others, but I think that was more maybe because of the environment they were in, the surrounding environment, whether or not I felt safe or not.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of, if you're going into open spaces, but quite secluded spaces, as a young woman walking on her own.
Yeah, of course.
The young bit, by the way. I'm very, very aware of my surroundings, but more to do with the living than the dead. So I think maybe because I am so conscious of, trying not to trip over, keeping an eye on someone, that I'm not fully, my brain isn't linked to any kind of spiritual or spirit related thing, because if I'm not looking at graves and photographing, then I'm thinking, am I safe? Am I,
Yeah, that makes sense. And going back to spiritualism.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your interest in spirit? What can you tell us more about it? About a little bit more about the difference between, before and now, basically?
Well, spiritualism, as it was in the 19th century, is very different to what as it is today. So my interest is in Victorian spiritualism, which is generally regarded to have been founded in 1848 in New York, where the Fox sisters, it was Kate and Margaret Fox, were living in their family's farmhouse with an older sister and their mum and dad, and the family began to experience raps and knocks in the building. And then the sisters, the youngest two, said that they'd established this system of like a call and response, what we're so familiar with today.
Yeah.
They would ask the spirit who was making these knocks to knock back. Can you knock out the names of the daughters? And the spirit did. And so these girls, after they claimed to be able to do this, it spread, and soon people were coming to the house. They were doing lectures, and then this method of spirit rapping really spread, and the ideas of spiritualism that they were feeding into, because there was a lot of spiritual thought, a lot of religious change at the time. So everything coincided at the right point for spiritualism to be born. So shortly after, some girls were knocking, were hearing knocks and responding. Then we get trance lecturers who would enter a trance, be taken over by a spirit, and talk to the gathered people. Then we'd see seances as we know it today, manifestation, slate writing, so on and so forth. So that era where the possibilities seemed endless and different methods of spirit communication were being opened up and experimented with. It's kind of like this amazing boom time of spiritualism, and also of fraud, because if there's money to be made and people to be exploited, in a sense, people who are opportunists.
Yeah, that happened a lot though, didn't it? Unfortunately. And you've seen that illustrated in different films and things like that, where people were taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in that, as much as, spiritualism today has, is an amazing but completely different religion and belief system than it was then. My main focus and the focus of my PhD has been a select group of women who were out and out proven frauds, but how they conducted themselves and how women were approached and talked about in spiritualism, I find that really interesting. That how if we see a horror film today with a seance in it, and we want a Victorian medium, we're going to see a very young, beautiful woman, very young, or child, or like an old crone.
Yeah. There's no in between, is there? They were either extremely young or they were just very old. There's literally no in between at all.
Yeah, and that really interests me, because I think a lot of this can be traced back to two particular women. One of them is a woman called Mrs. Guppy, and the other one was a very famous manifestation medium called Florence Cook. She was young and beautiful, so she couldn't be deceptive. And Mrs. Guppy was old and no longer really a viable woman, as the men at the time would have seen it. So she can't be deceptive. So it's this really strange duality.
It's mad, isn't it, really, if you think about it?
It's informed basically our entertainment choices without us even knowing. And I find that really interesting. I'm a bit obsessed with that.
We've got some more comments come in. Gary says, Tower of London. Wow, mind-blowing. Have to come up. He said, you'll have to come up. Well, no, Gary, she won't. You'll have to come up his neck of the woods, and he'll show you around some amazing locations in the Northwest. But it was Gary that took us to St. James's in Liverpool. So don't trust him, because his cousin went in with an attachment. So don't trust him.
Yeah, I'm on a virtual tour instead.
Yeah, I was going to say, get him to do you a virtual tour, or get him just to send you a list of places instead, just in case. Jenny's asking, do you do meditation before you go to cemeteries? Out of interest.
No, I don't actually, but I think a lot of this comes from like my over familiarity, because if I'm passing anywhere with a monument, a memorial, even if it's just one in a wall, I automatically just go, right, go and see it. So I don't, a lot of
you don't really think about it, it just kind of just engages and that's it. Yeah.
So I don't necessarily, I think, because I'm not going in looking to connect with anyone on like a spiritual level. I'm looking from firstly a social history perspective. So I go in thinking there are interesting people here. I want to find some stories. I want to make these people real. So I think maybe that's to do with my approach. If I was going in for more spiritual reasons, then and maybe I would consider additional periods of mindfulness. But I think because I conduct myself in a certain way that's very respectful, I don't feel the need to do that.
Yeah, you're going to learn about people and so on, their history and everything else. So you're going into it in a different way than probably most other people will go to a cemetery for. You're going for history. You're going to learn, and like I said, you're going in respect and so on.
Yes, yeah. I'd never conduct myself in a way that I thought was disrespectful or unethical to get some blog post or some article. It's like the people still come first. So I think there is still a link there. Yeah.
And can we talk about folklore, about different types of folklore with you as well? Because I know you've got an interest in that as well.
Yes. Yeah, I do. I love old folk practices, as I'm sure many of us do. Like the weirder the better. So,
I know, it's funny. I thought you might say something like that.
So on my blog, I've covered everything from the Owl Man of Cornwall through to
Owl Man of, okay, yeah.
So it's a bit like it's like Cornwall's Mothman,
right? Okay,
Cornish Owl Man.
Well, listen now. Okay.
There were some interesting reports, but one of my favourites that I came across was a lot of medieval and like 16th, 17th century cheese superstitions and folklore.
Really?
Okay. Which I felt cheated that I'd never heard of this before. But there was a lot of cheese-related things to do with birth. So, there was a cheese called a groaning cheese, where after a child was born, for good luck, the child would be passed through the wheel of cheese, but literally through quite a large wheel of cheese.
Right.
To celebrate its birth and protect it. Bits of the cheese were kept until the child was old and died. It's just bizarre. It's
weird. I like your word better, bizarre, but yeah, very weird, very odd.
Yeah, so I've written, if anyone's interested on learning more about birth and death cheese, check out my blog, because there are pictures.
No,
resist that.
There's actually pictures as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would you say is what's the most interesting folklore you've come across apart from cheese?
Oh, so my mind's filled with cheese now. I need to think. I do like a lot of anything that's based around people. So things like there was what was her name? A woman who, I think it was in the 16th century. Someone will tell me wrong. I can't remember my own work, but there was a woman who claimed to have birthed rabbits.
Okay. It's getting stranger by the minute, this conversation.
I hope no one's eating this with the dinner. I'm so sorry.
Well, Amanda says that she's finding it interesting, and Jenny says you've got her hooked, and she wants to go around cemeteries now. So they're finding everything you're talking about very interesting. So we will continue, even though it's very odd, but it's obviously of interest.
Oh, good. It's my main thing is I love things about people and the way people reacted in the past, strange claims, and yet this woman who said that she gave birth to rabbits, and she was in a village, and the local doctors came, and obviously this news spread like wildfire, and it interested the king as well, because then the king's physician came down, and this is all so tightly documented. It is the most bizarre and troubling story, and this woman would not just give birth once to rabbits, she would repeatedly give birth to rabbits to prove her skill. And then, when she was taken to London and told to perform, she couldn't always do it. And I think we can all understand why.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was well documented for giving birth to rabbits in portions.
Wow. Okay.
So,
moving on. Philip says, which is your favourite and most interesting actual grave that you have discovered on your travels?
Oh, crikey. I think in every cemetery I find a grave that just obsesses me, that I find really fascinating. But there's because I collect a lot of old photographs and postcards and things like that. I try to get photos of graves that I've never seen before and then track that. And I have come across a card of it's a young girl, I think she was 14, called Little Jane. And it's the most amazing, I think it's late 18th century gravestone. And it, says, Little Jane died with much suffering, a Christian martyr, this beautiful, beautiful script. And I thought, if someone's buying a photo of this, like a postcard of this, who was she? Was she interesting? And then I found the story of Jane, and there are books written about her that were used as Sunday school books about how to be a good child and a good Christian. And Little Jane on her Sunday school outing was behaving really beautifully and kindly in a cemetery. And then when she got ill and died, she was held up as this great paragon of Christian virtue. And I've become obsessed with visiting Little Jane's grave, but it's on the Isle of Wight. I haven't been able to go this year, but she's the one that I've become obsessed with and love, but haven't yet been able to see.
Yeah. So that'd be where you're off to in next year then?
Hopefully.
That'll be in the diary. It will be. That's it. I've decided.
Yeah, then. Yeah.
I've decided, everyone I've spoken to, with the interview with Mike this morning, I said, oh, well, no, so I've got stuff in the diary. Next year's happening. That's it. I've decided. I have made the decision for the country. We are going to have a life next year. Positive thinking, it's going to happen. Amanda says, I've got a lovely church by me. Going to have a look now. So you've inspired her to go and have a look.
Yeah, like every churchyard and every church will have something amazing or bizarre in it. If in Lincolnshire we have Churches Festival weekends that are usually in May. Obviously this year they didn't happen, but I've been around there and blasted through 14 churches in a day. And
wow.
How did I go past this building and think there'd be nothing interesting in it? And there's amazing grave slabs. There are Saxon grave slabs that are 10 feet tall, strapped to a wall. There's things that have survived the Civil War and the Reformation. There's you know, in last year's church crawl I did, in 2 separate churches, I saw a gravestone that had been hit by lightning and cracked down the middle. And then in the directly next door, I found in the same place a headstone of a woman who had been killed by lightning. So there's
What?
very strange and wonderful things that are in your locality that pass us all by. Yeah, we just need that little spark to go and investigate. Yeah.
How mad is that?
Mm.
Literally, that's just,
Yeah.
wow, that's crazy. Laura said, there's a grave that always stays with me. It's in a local graveyard, and it's of a baby that was killed by accidental discharge or misfire of a gun. How awful and mysterious at the same time, she says.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's sad as well.
It can be really emotionally draining when you go around cemeteries and you start seeing, families that just lost so many children.
Yeah.
And I think as sad as it can make you feel incredibly grateful as well for what we do have.
We are very lucky, to be honest. As much as everybody's complaining about the current situation, this is nothing compared to what other people you've lived through. Literally nothing compared to what people used to that have lived through. And so, it's bad, but
could be worse.
We are lucky too.
We are very lucky.
Whereas at least we've got medicines and everything else now, whereas centuries ago there wasn't, was there? So, we are lucky in that respect. Just going to go through some more of the comments. Jenny says, thank you for making this so interesting and amazing. Philip says, the plot where my parents are laid to rest, the gravestone next to their grave, has my name on it. Very odd to see. When we laid my dad to rest, I will send you a picture. How weird.
That is very odd.
Oh. Well, I don't know how I feel about that.
I'd take a picture, but that's just me. He's
going to send you a picture. He said he's got a picture. He's going to send you a picture. But wow, yeah, I really don't know I really don't know how I'd feel about seeing that at all. Not very, a bit scary that. So my mum pointed out the other day while we were walking through a graveyard. That is a shame. A lot of people are being cremated these days. We lose some of our history and stories.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's tricky because a lot of people cremate. I mean, there were Victorian cremations as well, but yeah, I mean, as well, a lot of cemeteries are getting filled up. There's so many different aspects to it, but I suppose as well, now we're living in the age of the internet. Stories have a far greater chance of being, of living on. Well, we've got these things at our fingertips, because imagine, just think about how many have been lost to time of lower class and working class people whose stories we would love to know.
Well, yeah. Jenny says, she's asking about she missed it earlier. She said, where can she find your blog, please? Because she wants to read about everything you've been writing about, basically.
It's burialsandbeyond.com. And if you follow me on Facebook, on Burials and Beyond, Twitter, things like that, and Instagram, I always put up pictures of the strange things I insist on keeping in my house.
There it is.
There's extra bonuses everywhere.
So I was just trying to find the link because I knew obviously it was put on earlier. So just going back to try and find. So there we go. There's the link for it, Jenny. So if you go through the comments back towards the beginning, it is in the comments, so you can find it on there. So I'm going to say thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been quite eye-opening in many different ways and interesting.
Yeah, sorry.
I want to say, look up Kate's blog. Like I said, the link is in the comments. I've put it on the screen for her as well. Also, if you missed the very beginning, not only was she in issue 27 of Haunted Magazine, she is now also going to be in issue 28, which comes out tomorrow. So you can purchase those. I'll go into more detail about that later on. I will put a link on for that if you want to purchase the magazine or look at it online. because obviously your stories in the magazines will be different to the stories you've already written in your blog.
Very different. Yeah.
Chris Evans says, do you have an Instagram?
Yeah, I'm Burials and Beyond on Instagram as well.
So there we go. There. Paula says, love listening to you. Very interesting, and thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice.
Rose says, thank you. Very interesting topic. But it is something different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than all your same questions about and over and over again about the same things, really. So it's good to have something different on and to have you on. So I think I've read everyone's comments. Thank you very much, Kate, for joining me. I do appreciate it. Everybody else, thank you for commenting, interacting with us, and taking an interest. And like we said, Philip says, great talk. Thanks, Kate, Cheryl. He really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So, lots of people saying great as always. Oh, they're all commenting now. Now we're ending. They're all commenting. Typical. So, yeah. So thank you, everybody. Stay where you are, everyone. Next up will be Gary Fields. And he will be doing readings. It's not for everyone because obviously you can't get through everyone because it's not physically possible. But he will get through as many as he possibly can. So thank you very much. And I will see you all again shortly. Kate, say that. Don't leave me just yet. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you again.